Welcome to Carter's Retro Reviews. Today we're going to be reviewing 3D Baseball for the Sega Saturn. Now, before we get started on this, I just want to... Sorry, give me a sec. I promised myself I wouldn't cry. The reason I'm a little upset is because my wife is going to throw out my favourite pair of undies. They're perfectly good. There's nothing wrong with them. I mean, apart from the big fucking hole in the back and the big fucking hole in the bottom. I mean, it actually looks like I farted a hole through these things. But apart from that, they're perfectly fine. Oh god, I'm gonna miss you, undies, so much. Have you ever completely misread a situation? Well, I had some friends around and I was all like, hey, I've got an idea. I've got some games that we can all enjoy. Let's play that. So when I got the buy-in, I thought to myself, I'd do the old, you know, classic switcheroo. Except the whole thing backfired on me. I didn't warn them on what they were about to play, apart from the obvious fact that it was going to be a Saturn game, which got one or two groans, and that says to me that I was on the right path with this joke. I thought it'd be so funny that everyone would appreciate the wave of shit I was about to spray in their face. It was just like I'd eaten 2 dodgy meat pies from the corner store, taken a handful of laxatives, sectioned out a few days for this emotional cleanse, and ensured both my PSP and phone are on full charge with a spare battery for the PSP. I put on Bases Loaded 96, and as I go to laugh, I realise I'm the only one laughing. I was met with the faint sounds of crickets in the background. I look around and it was like I was showing them all gay porn or something. While they were sitting there with their parents and I put on a skin flick which starred a family member. The part that gets me is this actually made me laugh harder than everyone else joining in the first place. They all look at me with disgust and I get one guy who does a bit of like an internal laugh, but it's more like he vomited a little in his mouth. I apologise profusely, but I'm not done. I say that was just a joke game. Look, don't even worry about it. This next game was going to be far better than that. Oh, by the way, did I mention I was drunk? Oh yeah, I was drunk as hell. Then I put in the next game, another baseball game. Frank Thomas, Big Hurt Baseball. Yeah, I've reviewed it before. Still no laughs apart from the few eye rolls. And now I'm laughing harder than before. I do this for 3 more games. Bottom of the 9th, Grand Slam, and this game, 3D Baseball. By the time we get to this game, I don't even try and sugarcoat it anymore. They ask me how this game really is, and I just say to them that they know as much as I do. Which, by the way, is not a lie. I realise that milking this joke like that scene from The Simpsons with the rats for milk is grounds for no longer being a friend.
It's pure. Pull the plug, boys.
Run free, little vermin. The city is yours.
I still think it's kind of funny. So, short story very long, it was probably the best game out of all the ones that we played at the time, which to be fair wasn't terribly hard. I don't think I'm allowed to bring my Saturn out at parties anymore. The game was developed and published by Crystal Dynamics in the US, and in Japan it was published by BMG Japan. It was released on both the PlayStation and Saturn. Now, I've made my feelings on sport pretty well known by this stage, but it always reminds me of that scene in the IT crowd.
Maybe we're proper men. Look, we're messing with stuff we don't understand. We're through the looking glass. Just promise me you'll not let this get too far.
I promise.
Hooray! He's kicked the ball. Now the ball's over there. That man has it now. That's an interesting development. Maybe he'll kick the ball. He has indeed, and apparently that deserves a round of applause.
Will you shut up? They're going to hear you.
This is the worst thing in the world.
What could I do?
Anyway, how does this game fare?
Ground ball to the right front. Foul ball.
Presentation of the game is pretty constant, which is a nice way of saying shit. Well, normally. I mean, not this time. That constant is mostly positive. From the intro video, which captures the energy of baseball and really sets up the environment for what feels like a positive experience up until this point. The menu presentation is simple, but it's more than the sum of its farts. Holy shit. Did I just say the sum of its farts? That is fucking hilarious. Oh, I meant parts. Parts. Jesus Christ. The menu presentation is simple, but it's more than the sum of its parts, which, as you will find as we go through this, it will not be the last time this phrase will be used in an effective way to describe the game. It's bright, welcoming, everything flows, and the background pictures are clear with no dated colour overlay. In-game presentation is a mixed bag. On one hand, I love that in the left-hand corner we get everything we could need when we bat. We get base positions, score, stats on where the side currently stands, balls, strikes and outs, and the stats of the batter itself. It's also worth mentioning that in-game presentation is probably the best I've seen yet, and not to spoil too much, but probably the best of all the baseball games I have, plus the ones I haven't finished reviewing. I don't know if that speaks in volumes or not, but it is what it is. Graphically, it's pretty good. I did notice a few glitches, like the camera would zoom out and the ball would just disappear. So what the fuck is the camera following? Short of that though, the textures and detailing of the ground is far away heads and tails above any other baseball game. Crowd detail is fucking woeful, but it's not the worst I've seen. Actually, it's probably the best I've seen, but it's still pretty bad. Animation is pretty solid across the board. Colours are excellent with a bright and cheerful palette. Sound is hard to gauge, unfortunately. It's missing sound, but also the calls made by the commentators were also pretty glitchy. Why it's hard to gauge is I'm sure a lot of that is because of the big scratch on the back of the fucking CD. God, I'm so angry at myself for that. And it's not like I can replace the CD either, because the game is ridiculously expensive to purchase. Gameplay is a little strange, as some of the parts of the game I could control quite well, and others I had little control over. The fielding was pretty snappy in that a direction and a button would throw the ball where I needed it to go. The game was smart enough to work that out. However, if I wanted to throw it to someone outside of the diamond or, well, anyone not on a base, the game was completely confused and at a loss as to why I would want to do that. I mean, I don't blame the game, as I too would be, but in special circumstances, this would be a pain in the ass to navigate. Pitching was pretty good as well. With this ability I've had in another baseball game where you can control the ball where it goes even after the ball has left the pitcher's hand. It's a strange concept that really pays off well. Batting was strangely laggy. You had to add in another second in there to compensate. If I sucked a baseball before, this really put me off my knitting. Someone else did mention it, so I will too, about the lack of Major League Baseball teams or logos, and that players can only take the field in 4 imaginary ballparks. Longevity is here in a 1 or 2 player mode. It does lack All-Star, Home Run Derby and playoff modes. See, I can live shit from Wiki too. Would I recommend it? In the realm of baseball, absolutely. It's probably the best one yet. Outside of baseball, you're probably sick of them by now, and I don't blame you. Just be aware at this point, I still don't even think we've touched the sides of sports games for the console, and that we're still a little while to go on baseball games alone. If you don't like baseball as a sport, this is not going to magically convert you. It's not like NBA Jam, where there's some exaggerations or liberties with the sport to make it into something wildly appealing, although at this juncture, I highly doubt that we're ever going to see a sports title like NBA Jam again.
The crime dog himself, Freddie McGriff. Fly ball to center field. Can of corn.